Hey guys, welcome back to the 2 Cents Podcast. This is Yossi Bensoussan. I'm here with my brother Rabbi Bensoussan. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing Chinuch Habanim yet again. Probably our most responded to and commented on podcast from our first season was Chinuch Habanim. So we brought it back by popular demand. Chinuch Habanim number 2. We're going to be discussing how to love your children. Not that you need help with that. Disciplining your children. How to instill in your children security, self-esteem, and so much more. At least we're going to try to stick to those topics. Later on in this episode, stay tuned for our conversation with Rav Nasanel Gans from Yad La'achem and hear how they very uniquely and innovatively help children from Arab villages come back to their roots as from Jews. Our podcast today is brought to you by Meaningful Minute and is sponsored by the ZCK Foundation and Yad La'achem. Hope you enjoy the episode, guys.
Hi, everybody. This is Ari Bensoussan.
And this is Yossi Bensoussan.
And this is the 2 Cents Podcast.
Brought to you and powered by Meaningful Minute.
Welcome back, everybody. Here we are.
Welcome back.
Whoa.
Hiatus.
And this is what it looks like. Yossi, this is
How
what...
do you spell hiatus?
Yossi.
We took a hiatus.
Well, nobody really knows how to spell that word.
I know, but we know.
But I'm going to tell you this. This is what the bottom of the other side of the mountain looks like. When you traversed up to the top. Have I been to the top of Mount Everest? No. But I've done something harder. No. I've gotten to the up and back again to the second season. Baruch Hashem, winding down our last episode.
I want to yell it from the top of a mountain, but I don't have a mountain. I have a podcast, so
we're going to yell it from there.
Last episode.
Wow. So look at this. Just, it's like, I'm going to go to Disneyland, like you get that feeling, Baruch Hashem, at the end of it, because, we wanted to do one that we were going to be, again, physically together in the same room. And, if anybody out there right now is like, 1 second, they're not in the same room together. I mean, I'm sorry, I just gave it away. But I want to give away, I want to give away because I want to say thank you to TJ, to our videographer, to Sender.
I was just about to say, Ari, you know who I feel the best for when we wrap up these things? Our videographers. They're just, you do realize our videographers, Ari, I don't know if you ever truly appreciated this, only listen to one side of this conversation.
Yeah, it's the truth.
It has to be horrible.
It has to be the most frustrating thing. What's he saying? What is the other guy talking
when I
about?
laugh, he's like, what's like, to hold back from asking me, what's the joke? What's so funny? It has to be difficult. So a big thank you to TJ, a big thank you to our Rav Sender over here, and just, all the team, the whole team. There are people involved in this. We don't look this good normally. No, there's a person who powders.
I just like to say to hair and makeup, thank you to makeup and hair. Honestly, you never showed up.
You got to wait easy on this one.
You never showed up. They just, we didn't have to really.
God is my barber.
And Baruch Hashem, but like altogether, it's so exciting to have got. And we're going to be talking about, this one's a big one. Save the best for last. This is our second crack at Chinuch Habanim, our second go. And it doesn't mean a second one, meaning that Chinuch Habanim is really something that we're doing our whole life. It's, even when you don't have kids, it's still Chinuch Habanim. What I mean to say is that even after it's an empty nest and the children have left home, I mean, obviously still involved with your kids, but Chinuch Habanim is, we discussed this the first time, we'll probably get into it again today, is all about self-control. It's all about being godlike itself within you. Mahu rachum, mafata rachum. It's all a concept of really demanding of ourselves to be greater people. And so I'm so happy we got to finish off with Chinuch Habanim because it's really Chinuch of ourselves. It's being mechanech the way that we go about life. So last time we spoke about Simcha, yes. So it's what we got into last time. We got into the concept of Simcha. What is the next step in Chinuch Habanim after we spoke about really having a joyous home? And I don't want to repeat, obviously, the last podcast, but just... Right. Our outcome, though, is that the most important thing, Rav Berkowitz Mamish would say that if in everything else you fall short, but this one you did good, so then don't worry, kids are malleable. They can kind of like bounce back from other things as long as Simcha in the home is the constant, as long as a joyous nature. But that's not the only tool in the toolbox when it comes to Chinuch Habanim.
Of course not.
So what?
I mean,
what do you think
in general, also, Excuse me. Leave it to me to have a coughing fit right now. It definitely isn't the only one. Also, but I think just that point is something I wanted to actually sit on for just a minute today, which is the idea that children are resilient, and if we mess up once, if we mess up twice, if we mess up just because, like, it's part of it. It's okay.
Hold on one second.
We're not there to
you said kids are resilient. I said they're malleable. What? I don't even.
Yeah. I don't want to say
They're
anything.
stretching.
I wasn't. Right. I was going to tell you afterwards. I was like, are you trying to stretch your children?
I said, as I'm thinking of like Stretch Armstrong as a child.
Stretch Armstrong. I was just about to say Stretch Armstrong.
Okay, so yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you were saying.
Yeah. Children are resilient. You can't stretch them. PSA. Please stop stretching your children.
Yeah.
You can't stretch it. Children are resilient, but they're also understanding. They are. Children are figuring out the world. And for you to be able to, now, not on a constant basis be apologizing, but for you to be able to overreact to something or handle something wrong and show your child, not by way of apology, but by way of your behavior, show them that you maybe did that wrong and now you're doing something better, and now you figured out a better way to do something. That just shows them that people are fallible, that people are able to do a tshuva, that people are able to, as opposed to creating them to be these perfectionists that are always trying to do the right thing, that are always trying to do it perfect, they're always trying to do it right, and driving themselves and everyone around them crazy. So, the idea of this fear of always like being afraid of messing our kids up. Don't be afraid of messing your children up. Be afraid of not being the greatest version of yourself. The greatest version of yourself, or a great version of yourself, or a good version of yourself, is going to raise those kids amazing. Be afraid of not being calm. Be afraid of not being besimcha. Then you could be afraid of those things. I still want to tell you to be afraid of them, but adopt being calm, right? Rabbi Berkowitz also always says his answer to just about everything when it comes to raising children, better to be calm. Just before you react, before you do anything, the first initial reaction to everything with the kid is be calm. Now, what do you need to do? Be calm first.
Right. And I'm happy you said the being calm thing, because it's going to segue into Rav Berkowitz's understanding of discipline. When I give a Chinuch series, discipline is generally my fifth or sixth class in the series, meaning people, and after first, second, third, after those classes, people will come over and ask, but what about discipline? But, kids need discipline because have to be.
Right.
And I hold discipline almost to the last thing that I teach, because discipline is not about you, the parent.
Right.
Meaning, and this is something I really wanted to get into and stress today. If you're using discipline to have a calm home, then you're doing discipline completely wrong. Then you're actually abusing the art that is discipline, or the tool that is discipline. How do you have a calm home? Well, we spoke about having simcha in the home. How do you have a calm home? We'll talk about bringing up more secure children as well. There are other ways to go about it. Simcha, I think, being the most important of all of them. But discipline is literally teaching your children, and this is how Rev Berkowitz would put it, teaching your children to be accepted, normal, beautiful people in society. This is his understanding of discipline. Why would you discipline your kid? You would discipline your child because it's just unacceptable to do that. In society, it's unacceptable. You need to have derech eretz. Derech eretz, the most literal of translation, means the way of the world, the way of having societal norms. And the way that you have that is by showing self-control. So where Yossi was talking about just now, where he began down the path of self-control, discipline is showing them to master the art of self-control. It feels so much better to be in control. You have free will, and you can choose good. You can choose to be in control. You can choose to be in control rather than being a crazy person and being controlled by your drives and desires. So step one, and I would tell this to the parents, and I'm telling this to everybody here, you can't tell your kid to be in control if you're not in control. It's just too much of a jump, and your kid sees it as such a negative, such a contradiction of sorts in which you're telling them to be in control, but then like you're not yourself somebody who does that. So step one,
Right.
we have to ourselves, yes, we got to figure out control.
Yeah. I completely candidly, between me and you, completely, candidly, I struggle here. I do. I struggle in this. I struggle in this area to be completely transparent.
Okay, everybody, thank you. We're out of time. Before Yossi now spills the beans and ruins his entire career. That's been great. It's been a great season.
How many times have we said, we're trying to go out with a bang. Like I want to ruin it. I can't say the joke I said the other day, but someone said, oh, you got to be careful. This and that. I'm like, I hope that comes out. I'm fine with it. It's get me fired. I sometimes think that something else is more important than keeping that calm, than keeping composure, and I fall into that trap also. And I get that same question you said. I get that from parents all the time when I'm dealing with them. And it's so much easier to talk to someone else about raising their children than raising children. But I get that question all the time. Like, well, then how are they ever going to? So I get yelled at, actually. Like, usually it's the father that has a big problem with me. But where he's like, so discipline is out the window. Just let him run amok. Let him do whatever he wants to do. Now, usually in my line of work, things are actually, we're not talking about a 5-year-old that's having a temper tantrum. We're usually talking about a 15-year-old that's having a temper tantrum. But whatever he wants is a really funny term. People tend to subscribe their children with these major adult-like desires and wants and needs, and they feel like they're being conned by their kids a lot of times. Like, oh, so he's going to get whatever he wants then. Like, no, he's not getting whatever he wants because he doesn't want that. These kids, let's go with a kid who's going off the derech, a kid who's acting out. I know it's not our topic today, but they don't want to do that. They look like they're enjoying it. That's true. They do. And Rav Asher Rubinstein always used to say to us, they look like they're enjoying it the way the cats look like they're enjoying the garbage in Yerushalayim on a Motzei Shabbos. They're eating and they would rather somebody bring them a nice plate of beautiful food. And they look like they're having a party, but they're not, right? The famous example of the fish jumping out of the bowl, the other fish looking at him, they're like, oh, he's dancing. He's having so much fun. And like finally the old wise fish is like with the scars on his face says, hey, two jumped out one time. And, it's not fun. He's suffocating out there. That's why he's jumping. They're not enjoying it. Your children are not trying to manipulate you or they're kids. They're kids. That's number one. Number two, something we said the last season, but I think comes in over here, is that we have to say no. As from Jews, we have to say no to our kids so often. So often. And this is where I was saying I struggle. So often we have to say no to our kids. You have to be very careful about adding things on to that, where we're trying to discipline them. So we're like, no, you can't eat that now. Or no, you can't. Why can't he? Really, why can't he? It's usher. It's usher because you've said no to him 5 times today because of things that are usher. So it's usher. It's not usher. It's not. But you're giving it the same fervent. You think at 30, at 20, this kid's going to want to eat ice cream before his what? No, he's not. So what are we really doing over there? You want to keep a semblance in the home. Now it starts to get to be a matter of ego. And this is where I struggle. I get so afraid of really, honestly, I get so afraid of someone else knowing that I fed my kid ice cream at that point, or that he's running amok and running wild, or that he's this, that, and the other, that I'm sitting there disciplining him on something that's not his problem. It's mine. That's my issue, not his. And I'm sitting there putting that on him. It makes me feel so bad. But our point is that no, you got to get control. Or my point is you got to get control of yourself. And I struggle with it too. And I don't think there's anyone too far above it. Not me, but I'm saying above that struggle. But at the end of the day, really, is it discipline that you're really trying to instill over there, or is it a feeding of your own ego?
Right. And, I suffer from that a lot too. We can go into the chewing stuff and everything else where, I'm like, well, how's he ever going to get married? No, he'll be fine, Ari, and this is only yourself, but it goes even deeper. Meaning that what Rav Berkowitz explained is that kids don't chop that they can even have control. Meaning, he said, like, when they're so much younger, they don't chop that you don't hit back.
So beautiful.
They don't understand.
So
if somebody hit me,
beautiful.
of course I go and I hit back. If somebody did something, of course I'll call him a name back. They don't understand that there's even a concept of control. And if a parent themselves is going and kind of dressing up their own shortcomings with the excuse of discipline for their kids, all you're doing is showing that you don't have control, and then you're not showing your children themselves what control truly looks like and when it's called for, because you're losing control. If you're doing it for yourself, you're telling them to control themselves because you are uncontrollable. What they're seeing is somebody not in control. And therefore, you're showing them, don't actually be in control, lash out. So you're trying to discipline them in the way of the world, and in truth, you're showing them you don't have to have any control. You can just go ahead and lash out because I'm big and you're small. That is completely the opposite of what discipline is trying to do. So discipline is such a interesting line to walk, in which you can either be doing it perfect and showing your kids self-control because it's unacceptable, or you can yourself be losing it the whole time and actually destroying more than gaining inside your discipline matter. Hey, everybody, we're going to get back to our episode in just a moment. But right now, we are sitting with the Heilige Reb Nissan Gans from Yad La'achim. And it's so fun to talk about Chinuch. Please tell us about Chinuch. What's happening in Yad La'achim on the Chinuch angle?
Wow, first of all, I have to, as always, I have to learn Musar, the Heilige. Okay. But thank you for that. So it's very interesting. You mentioned about Chinuch. What's the involvement of Chinuch Habanim? So after we rescue the Jewish women and children, we actually have a big brother and a big sister program. And the program is called Chinuch Yeladim. It's literally the name of the program that we have in Yad La'achim, where we have children that we rescue, and they come from the Arab villages, and they're young children, and they speak Arabic. They don't even speak Hebrew. And we have Avrechim and Yungalayt, and that's for the boys, and for the women we have married women that literally come and educate the children. It's a system with over 30 to 40 big brothers, big sisters, and really mechanech kids. That's in one aspect. And then when they're a little older and they're more educated, we put into the yeshivas, Project Rishon. We have literally hundreds of kids a year that get put into yeshivas throughout Eretz Yisrael. So the chinuch that you spoke about is very apropos here.
Incredible. Wow.
That's wild.
All these underpinnings, Yossi, all these underpinnings.
It's incredible.
That Yad La'achim, and they see a need and they go after it, and they just say, okay, so I guess we're going to go and do that.
It's like I started a little competition with myself to try to find out what they don't do for these people. What is it? Do you guys not deliver milk? Like, what is it that you don't do? It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
No, yeah, and it's what we always talk about. We make the domain of the website Save a World, right? Save a World, that's what everyone should do. So how does a person come from an Arab village to a whole world? That's really what it is through chinuch, where a kid comes and he has no background, he has no education, you educate them, you teach them about Torah, Yiddishkeit, mitzvahs, then they go out into the yeshiva system, or even if not, as long as they have a Jewish background, a Jewish identity, and that's literally saving the whole world, because that's what you're doing. A kid that's stuck there is never stuck there, but rescued, and that's really what we need everyone's help for, to help take a child and bring it to the next level.
So our 2 cents listeners, let's do this. Our 2 cents listeners, let's send as many kids as we can. This podcast, let's send them. Go to saveaworld.org, saveaworld.org, and from over there, you donate. We'll save a world by being mechanech all of our children. Thank you so much, Reb Nissan.
Thank you for having me, and we'll see you next podcast, Metish.
Bezrat Hashem, back to our podcast.
If you yell at your kids, if you're sitting here just yelling your head off at your kids, they get all quiet and they get all... Because this is sort of familiar for them. They're expecting this. This is like, that's what a person does to them. When you're quiet and they're yelling or they're killing each other and you're quiet, they're going to turn to you and be like, hello, shouldn't you be yelling? Like, shouldn't you be also upset? Like, they don't understand what's going on. And when they don't understand that, it's because that's not their nature. They want to know more. They're like, you don't care about us. Like that, I could see why you think I don't care. Because you think I should also be involved in this fight, right? and fighting for the candy too, but I'm not, because I'm calm and I'm waiting to see who wants to work this out, who wants to be mevater, who wants to be, and then you can work that through.
And the kid feels great. A kid who's mevater, the moment, and this is so important, Rav Berkowitz would mamish harp on this, the moment your kid shows self-control, you come in with the whole dancing circus. You come in just, you are mavater, doesn't it? And you say to the kid, doesn't it feel good? Doesn't it feel good that you let it go? Doesn't it feel good to have a clean room? And I want to go a trod weiter with the clean room. Therefore, if the whole point is not to use discipline to have a calm house, it's also not to use discipline to have a clean house. So if you're not using discipline to have a clean house, then you clean up with the kids too. You know, you take, it happens to be this week's Parshas Vayechi. I don't know when this is going to come out, but you take a kind of lesson from the roll book of the Mitzrayim, which is that they started to do the Avodah Kasha with the Yidden. And, you know, it's a smart move. You say, all right, guys, we're cleaning up. And I mean, I'm sure Yossi does the same thing as I do. I get the broom, right? It's sweeping, like you put all the toys together. Abba's making a pile, guys.
If they had a leaf blower powerful enough to blow everything to the other side of the room, I would have one of those.
Here you go. But we get involved. Abba's picking up the tent. Okay, guys, I have the magnet tiles. You guys have because to be honest, I
Wait a second. But Ari, my father never did that.
And guess what, Yossi? My father didn't do that either. But
then how are they going to learn? They should see their father?
So my answer to that, and I really like this answer, and you were actually on a thing with us with a different rabbi when I gave this answer. My answer to that is that we are not our parents. What I mean, now let me go a little bit deeper in that. Yes, how many times did mommy and Abba ever go out to a restaurant?
Honestly, I remember once. I want to tell you why. I remember once they went out to a restaurant. It was for one of their anniversaries. I think it was a restaurant they went out to. And because when they came back, we made that balloon thing with the stuff falling on them. We made a balloon thing for them. I think we got yelled at for staying up too late. But the point is, never. I didn't.
No, hardly. Yes. How often did they go on vacation? Never. I like ever.
The kids are out of the house right now. I still don't think they go on vacation.
Right. And how many cars did they own? What kind of new clothing? Did mommy ever go out to get her nails done? Or Friday afternoon, right before candle lighting, mommy would sit down and do her own nails.
Our house would smell like three things: Moroccan fish, Duncan Hines cake, and my mother's nail polish.
Nail polish. That was it. The nail polish is a certain part of the Shabbos smell in the Bensoussan home on Friday afternoon. The Duncan, right? Exactly. You nailed it. You momish nailed it. Here you go. And so guys have to understand our parents, it's not just our parents that we grew up with generally never fargin themselves. That means that they never spoiled themselves. There was a certain amount of self-control that they always had. And so if it was demanded of us to have as much self-control inside cleaning up our own toys, it made sense. It didn't feel like she would miss her. It made sense. Mommy and Abba are in control of their own stuff. I have to be in control of my own stuff. Today, parents, by and large, are not in control. We spoil ourselves rotten. We go out to restaurants all the time. We take ourselves and our kids to hotels all the time because things have gotten, let's face it, things have gotten cheaper, more accessible. And, you know, we are this baby boomer kind of I don't know, what are we, generation, whatever.
Yeah.
That we're certainly not baby boomers, but I'm just saying like, right,
we're not baby boomers by a long shot.
Yeah, they're like, are they 1960s? Yeah, I don't know. I would like to think that I have a little bit of...
You're on the ball today.
The malleable baby boomers.
Confidence. You said it with such confidence. I'm a baby boomer.
You just have to have a certain stride in your step when you say things. It's the way that it goes. But whatever generation, you know what? This podcast will live forever. We're a part of all generations. But what I mean to say is that we grew up in a generation and therefore we give ourselves a lot to. And so to show our kids self-control, we're not showing it in our everyday aspect. And our kids, therefore, when they see us telling them, go clean or go do something,
right,
the lines are crossed. It's a very confusing thing.
Right.
So we have to get down there with them.
Right, which I think pushes us to another point over here that we wanted to get to, which was the building of like a self-confidence over there in a kid has a lot to do with this. It has a lot to do with this because otherwise, when you think about it, anything but self-control and discipline, self-discipline, anything but self-control and self-discipline is really just relying on things outside of ourselves to make ourselves feel better, to make ourselves. This breaks really this breaks self-esteem, and it causes them to rely and need everyone and everything around them to serve them to a certain degree. And when they don't know how to pull themselves out of that. Building a resilient kid is building a kid who knows how to pull from within, who realizes that it's nice to have things, but it's not necessary to have things. And that's so important for us to be showing our kids, is this idea of self-control, self-discipline is what feels the best. It's what makes you the happiest. And there is, correct me if I'm wrong, Ari, there is, what I've seen, there is only one way. There is only one way to instill that. And that is by example. This specifically, the only way to certain things your kids are going to be able to get or not get on their own. And, learning specific ways, or that maybe they'll take from you, maybe they won't take from you. Yeah, if they see you learning, you have a much better chance, and so on and so forth. But this, if they see you being a disciplined, calm person, they will grow with that. If they don't, you will not be building that self-esteem. Self-esteem is not clapping every time they walk through the door. Self-esteem is not telling them they're great at something that they're not great at. That's not what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is making them appreciate the work that goes into becoming good at something. Appreciating and valuing what it takes to become something, as opposed to saying that, no, you're naturally amazing at that.
Absolutely.
We hurt them so badly by doing that, by trying to be so specific about. I remember David Kaplan one time was giving a share, and he said this kid, this poor kid, he came in, long day cheder in Israel, long day cheder, comes in and he puts his mishnayos down, he's carrying a mishnayos with him, puts his mishnayos down on the table, he goes running into the room to play, and his mother calls after him and yells at him, "Get your mishnayos off the table! How many times have I told you to put it on the bookshelf? Get your mishnayos!" He's like, just rewind and hear what you're telling the kid. Get your mishnayos off the table. What was the point over there? The point was cleanliness. Well, how is he going to know to ever put his stuff away? He's going to know. Yeah. Doing it like that is not how it's going to happen. You wanted the place clean.
Kids understand what's right and wrong, and you're saying leading by example. If you want your kids to know that they have to clean off the table, so then buy a pizza shop, clean off the table.
Yes.
Buy a pizza shop. And I wait for my kids to say, but they have somebody who can clean it up. I'm like, right?
Yep.
Just right. Yes. Did we ever let kids walk off the bus in Camp Sha'arim when they came home? If you were ever on Coney Island at 11:30 at night, when we came back with our buses, this is what you would see. You would see a lineup of parents waiting to pick up their kids. You would see a bus that would pull up, and the bus would not open for another few minutes, because what happened was either Yossi and I or Yitzi or other people were on that bus. And we said to everybody, to all the kids, and we didn't obviously wait until we got to camp, but we waited until we got to Ocean Parkway. And we said, guys, nobody is getting off this bus until it's as clean as when we got on it. Here's your garbage bags. Let's go. And guys are like, The bus company cleans it up. No, it doesn't. No, yeah, no, but they do. No, that could be. But there's a derech eretz over here, meaning that's what it means. I don't need a clean bus. We're at the end of it. Yossi doesn't need to clean. We're at the end of our coming up to camp. But you need to know what it means to clean up what you drop, because to have a place in society means that you don't just drop things. I love this lashon that Israelis have when they come into a house. If their kid leaves open a door, they say, "Mazeg dalta l'autobus," meaning what? Did you grow up on a bus that the door closes behind you automatically? What? Did you grow up with like a maid cleaning up after you? And a lot of our kids used to say, Yeah, I do. And like, Goofa, that's the problem. No. You have to learn. And so you would see the bus literally bounce back and forth with kids complaining, parked over there in front of the camp until we went and picked it up. I got a great story. I have a great story. Yes, we were in camp, and we were in a hotel because we were spoiled. Let me explain this. Most camps, when they go out, they would generally get like a gym floor, or they're doing... None of these guys. We needed a bed to sleep in at night. And so we would just make sure that we always stayed in hotels, and not just regular hotels, because Yitzi, not saying the last name, we can just call him Yitzi. Yitzi himself had like enough points
master
and enough connections. He'd be like, yeah, we're staying, let's just see, and he would just get us to these 5-star crazy places. Really great times. We stayed in this really beautiful hotel once, and they set us up a whole breakfast, because you get a continental breakfast. So they set us up a whole breakfast, and they made sure to get us even kosher food beforehand. It was really nice. So there we are with 2 coach buses full of kids. That's about 130 kids, staff and everything else. And we ate inside their place. And the place is now completely, it's in shambles. We just completely knocked their place. And the lady who runs the place came out, and she was okay. She she got it. She wasn't have a problem. I walked up and I said to her, could you please bring me a lot of garbage bags? She's like, I'm sorry. I said, we want to clean up. She's like, no. We have a whole custodian staff. We're good to go. I said to her, no. I said, we have something called Chinuch, and that means that my kids clean up after they make a mess. She's like, but we have people hired. I said to her, I want you to stick around. I want you to watch this. I want to make a Kiddush Hashem. She got me a whole box of garbage bags. I gave them out to all of the staff, stood up on the chair, and I said, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I said, guys, the first ones to clean up around their thing, they're going on the bus first. And sure enough, there wasn't a Cheerio left on the floor, cleaned up perfectly, about 8 garbage bags filled, everything put back, everything pristine. And I went over to her, and the lady was in shock. And I explained to her, it's not that I needed to have a clean hotel. I'm leaving right now. But it's that I need to have children who understand that they clean up when they leave a hotel. When I take my kids to a hotel, stop for vacation, we clean up the room. We clean up the hotel room afterwards. Because it's derech eretz, because that's the way you go about things. You lead, though, by example. When you go and do that, that builds a secure, confident kid who knows what he's doing.
I do it with my Talmidim in the classrooms. I do it with my Talmidim. They know that there's a cleaning crew that comes at night, that comes what they called. But they know, like, guys make fun of me all the time. I'm like, in Yeshiva High School of Cleveland, buddy, we clean up after ourselves, right? We don't wait for someone else because we're mature, we're responsible. I give them a whole what do you call it? It doesn't matter. If you ate your lunch over there, you clean it up. If you clean it up, right? To the point that I don't know. So it's funny you mentioned that pizza shop thing, because I do the same thing in a pizza shop, and people look at me like I'm crazy. I don't know when or why or how we learned this. I think it was more mommy. Like the respect of other people. Like, you don't have someone else clean your, like, for instance, I have a cleaning lady that comes to our house like once a week or so.
So uncomfortable.
It's the most uncomfortable thing for me. But I have like these garbage cans outside or whatever. But I do that part. I clean out. It's disgusting how it gets. Whatever. It's a long story why. But I do that part. And the kids always say, they're like, why don't you let Beth Ann do that? And I was like, because this is disgusting. Beth Ann should not have to do this. Like, she shouldn't have to do that. She's not my dummy. Like, that's not how that works, right? She shouldn't have to do that. To take responsibility in that way for what you are, for who you are, for it's so important. It's so important. I actually remember, I'll show off about you for a second. I remember one time we were in Israel, and I was talking to somebody who was making you a job offer at the time to come to the States. I don't think you ended up deciding to stay in Israel. But I remember taking it, and he was talking to me about it, and he was talking to me about you, and he said, you want to know the one thing that I'm over the moon about your brother? I said, yeah. He's like, if it's picking up a mop, if it's giving a shear, if it's leading a trip or driving the bus, he's ready to do all of it, because the whole thing is his. The whole thing belongs to him. I remember in Ruach Chaim, sometimes you guys were the cooks. Sometimes the Rebbeim had to make the food. Sometimes
Baruch Hashem, I didn't take that job.
Right? Yeah.
Although I have that job now. I mean, let's face it. Here with, but yeah. I mean, it's taking responsibility. It's showing that you can be the gever in everything. So now, yes, okay, we spoke of this part. Now, I think we should talk though about the ABCs though within the discipline, the mahalach.
Right.
Do you yell at your kid? Do you put him in a corner? How thick of a belt? Right. Chas v'shalom. But how do you go about?
It's the rule of thumb.
Right. So how do you go about it? So number one, step one is you don't have a power struggle with the kids. Kids can out crazy you all day, and it's beneath you to have a conflict with the kid. Kids get so upset, they pull down shades, they do all these different things, Rav Berkowitz would say, and I believe we discussed this last time by Simcha, but it's worthwhile to repeat and segue into how to do the discipline. And if we didn't, then it's definitely worthwhile to say. If you show your kids that they can get you, if you show your kids that they can do something that can really, so then A, you lack in self-control, and B, you get crazy with them. And now you've gone down into their level. Disciplining your child doesn't mean that now you get a green light to lose your self-control and to yell, God forbid, to hit, or anything along those lines. No. You still keep control the whole time. That's step one. Now, the question is, how do you go about it? Now, you need to know that what I'm about to say will work only if everything else is secure in the home. If the simcha is secure and you're in self-control the whole time, you're laughing with your kids for the most part. When they walk in, you're giving them confidence. You're cleaning up with the kids. You're pointing out what they're doing well and hoping that they will do better, and you're leading by example. Then your kid knows that you're fair. When your child knows that you are fair and that you're not picking on them and you're not doing anything negative to them, and then you say, that's unacceptable. Look, you got to go to your room now for 10 minutes. Sit down, relax in your room for 10 minutes. You come back. This will be waiting for you to clean up. And that's that. Or fighting each other, hitting their brother, something along those lines. And you feel that that is something that's unacceptable. You go up, you stop and say, you don't start to yell and scream at them. Because if you yell and scream, then you lost the self-control over there. It shouldn't be shocking to you. They're kids. But you walk up, you hold them back. If the kid's going crazy, you put them into like a little bit of a beer hug, Rebbe Spetner says, to kind of hold them. But then afterwards, you say, you're going into the room. Now, I know parents that they come over to me afterwards and they're like, getting them into their room is impossible. I have to pull them and drag them and throw them and clawing. And again, I started this off with a very specific rule, which is that everything else was happening. There is simcha. There is everything else happening all the time. They know that you're fair. If they're clawing and not going into the room, it's because what you're doing is unfair. And if what you're doing is unfair, it's because they believe they're being treated in a negative way. So then that means that there's something else in the soup that is spoiled over here. So you're coming to try to discipline after you put salt instead of sugar into your coffee. You can't make it better at that point. It's already ruined. Hey, everybody. So thrilled to be doing another season of 2 Cents with my brother Yossi. But I got to tell you, there's so much more going on. You need to download that Meaningful Minute app right away, ASAP. You got to do this schnell, as they say in Yiddish. You got to do this right away because there's bonus content and there's so much more content that both Rabbi Yossi and I put up, but there's so much more. I mean, you got to see Rabbi Majeski. I mean, you got to go out there, see Charlie Harari. There's an entire world in that Meaningful Minute app that's going to bring you closer to the Eibishter. So please, right now, get that app, download it, and really enjoy becoming so much closer to Hashem.
So I totally agree. I was letting you go over there because I was interested. I totally agree. Obviously, there's nothing to really disagree about. We learned discipline and chinuch from the same home and the same rebbeim. So but I just want to, I want to take it from, maybe it's a little bit of a different angle, but just more of a commentary on everything that you said. Number one, it's a process. Just because you become calm, and this is just as logical. If I were to say, okay, Bensoussan's fine. I'm going to start working on being calm and being besimcha. I want to see if it does anything. So I'm sitting in my office right now, right? I'm going to see my kids at some point tonight, I'm sure. From now till then, I worked on my calm and my simcha. Is that going to affect anything in my house? The answer is yes, it will, I guess. But no, okay? Nothing happened, right? That's not how that works. That's not, and it's just as logical to say, oh, I didn't do it then. I did it in front of my kids for that amount, for hours and hours. No, it's a process. It's a process. The one thing I disagree about what you said, and I know you didn't mean it, that's why I just want to bring it up before we get, hate for it, which is that, no, it's not, just because you put the sugar in, and just because you put the salt in instead of the sugar, it's not ruined. There's always way.
Yeah.
But you got to backtrack.
No. Yeah. Thank
you got
Yes,
you got to
yes.
start doing it again.
Yes,
You
yeah,
got to start
good.
doing it again. So start doing it now. Oh, it's too late. No, it's not. Start doing it now. Start using it now. Because I'm going to tell you something. And again, I'm being very open today. But one of the things that like I struggle with it, and I really beat myself up about, I shouldn't beat myself up, but is that when I'm having a bad day, my discipline at home is going to look differently than when I'm having a great one. And that is sad because that means it has nothing to do with my kids. And how does my discipline at home look? How does my discipline at home look when I'm having a good day? I'm so calm. I laugh at it with them. I'm able to gently pick him up and give him a beer hug if he needs that. I'm reading a book for a little bit longer. And when I'm having a bad day, who made this mess? Who made this mess? Right? It's the same mess that was there the day before. Nothing has changed. The kids have been home all day. It's snowing. Right? Someone threw the Legos too far across the room. What are you doing? No, it's inside of you, and when you squeeze yourself, that's what's coming out of you. You're going crazy. So number one, I try to mentally explain to myself when I want to blow up or when I do get angry, it's not about them. What are you doing? You're stressed right now, and you're upset, and it has nothing to do with them. They're the easiest target. Is that what it is? You will immediately pull yourself out of it when you think you're a child abuser, okay? When you think that you will immediately be like, no, who's recording this? Like, that you're, but so you said be fair. So be fair. Yes, 100%. By my way of being fair, choose your battles. What's important to you? And by the way, anything's allowed. Let's say a clean house is really important for you. Let's say a clean house is what's important for you. And you desperately need that in order to function. You can't without that. And so choose that. Choose that. But then when they get into a fight with each other, that can't be your thing now. I'm just bringing up examples, right? That when I mean by that can't be your thing, I mean that can't be the thing that you're ultra strict about. Or when they're not doing their homework on time. Or when they stayed out too late, or whatever it is, that can't be your. Now, choose your battles is important, but don't become overly, right? I've heard this line from so many people. My kids know they can do this, they could do this, but they have to tell the truth. Now, that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. It really is. Number one, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous because if you ever lie and your kids see you do it, they have no idea what to believe anymore.
Yep.
If you have like this one mountain you stand on and yell from, they don't know what to do about it. And men out there, if it's davening, that you're like, you have to, let them know they don't have to become Rosh Hashivas. And I've heard this 1,000, but you gotta be in shul for Shacharis every day. You gotta be. So you go to shul, you're in shul for Shacharis, and you're talking during davening, or you're this, or you're that. The kid's like, is this important or not? What part was important? Did I show up with you? Was that the key here? Because they're going to be learning from. So before we take too harsh of a stance on anything, it's not what we say, it's how we do it.
Yeah.
We make things root.
Yeah, I did want to say, and I don't want to, meaning a lot of times I remember people saying, okay, so what do you do? Meaning, give me a practical, like, what do you do? So this is what Rav Berkowitz said, and I've tried to train myself. I can't say I do this all the time. I'm not perfect. But he said that you learn to laugh. Meaning, and I think we said this last time, but it comes back to this basic again, which is that no matter what crazy thing that they do, you learn to laugh. Rav Berkowitz
that one.
He had the example of once his child got so angry, his 10-year-old, his 12-year-old, he pulled the hinges off the door. In Israel, you can pull it off easily. The kid pulled the hinges.
And they just turn and come up.
Yeah, the kid got so upset, he just pulled the hinges off the door. And Roberto's wife was standing there.
Story, yeah.
They both just started laughing. Him and his wife just started laughing. And then the kid just started laughing. And that was it. Now, Roberto said, but you have to tell the kid it's, one second, it's not a thing. It's not accepted. You pull hinges off. So maybe in Israel it is. People get into fights and they pull off hinges. No. I'm saying, of course, but the kid also knows he did something wrong. And by the way, you can wait with it. Meaning the kid chops he did something wrong. So if you start yelling, screaming, everything else, that's it. He got you. So you laugh. You're like, you did a ridiculous thing. Now, How do you laugh? So this is what he said. If you are by somebody else's house, eating there on Shabbos.
There you go.
If you're by somebody else's house eating on Shabbos.
Because you don't want it to be a condescending laugh. You don't want it to be that you're making fun of him. That's not what you're doing.
It's genuinely something hilarious. The kid just pulled the thing off.
Right.
Meaning, if you're sitting by somebody else's house on Shabbos and that other person, the piece of people you're by, their child got so upset that their child pulled the door off the hinges, you'd be laughing your head off like, oh my gosh, you can just pull it off the hinges.
You would laugh.
So the situation is something where you can de-escalate it, and now instead of getting upset, you laughed. Then afterwards, you tell them, there are certain things that we don't do. Fine. But you didn't come down to the kid's level. The kid sees that you have this armor around you that the kid cannot penetrate, that you just don't get upset. Begin to learn to laugh at everything that we have. Begin to learn
100%.
to laugh. Begin to learn to laugh at everything that we have. Yes, I think we only have like a minute. Wow, this one flew by.
Right.
We only have like
This
a
one flew
minute or
by.
two left. So let's
I
both
just
sign
wanna say-
off with an idea. Go.
Yeah, I want to say one point, because this is also a question I get a lot in Chinuch, and really you could do a whole thing on this, but let's just jump in for it for 1 second. You got to realize something. I got to realize something. Everyone's got to realize something. Because I get a lot from people like, well, if I'm not strict on him not missing davening, how's he going to ever know it's important? Your kid knows it's important. Your kid knows that you feel it's important. Your kid knows that. They have that in their head. How will they ever know that lying's bad? They know that you don't approve of that. They know that you love them. They know you love them, hopefully, but they know you want them to be a frum Jew who goes to shul, who does well. They know these things. Once they know these things already, they don't think that you're okay with it. When they see you being okay with it, they think you're understanding of them. They think you get what it is that they're going through. Now, that is the highest level of that process, is that your children understand, to feel that you understand them. Now you become their confidant. Now you become something big for them. Now you become something, strong for them. And again, like what we were saying before, it's the whole. It's not discipline. And then, well, let's work on discipline. Let's work on calm. We got to work on the whole. So what that looks like is, again, I'm going to be open here. The other night, I one of my kids was just acting up and terrorizing one of the other kids. So I grabbed him and I had to put him on the side. And I felt like maybe I grabbed him too quickly. Maybe it scared him a little bit. And I raised my voice at him. So I felt maybe I felt bad about it. And I was just thinking through like how not to do that next time and how I could repair. And then about 15 minutes later, I'm sitting with him on the couch, the child that I had to remove. And I'm sitting with him on the couch and I'm reading a book to him. And he was calm and he was laughing and he was playing with my beard. And I realized, I was like, wow, he's fine. And then I understood that, yeah, he's fine because this is the norm, not that. This is the norm. Sitting here, reading a book, hanging out, that's the norm. The grabbing him and that's not the norm for him. So you can balance it out. We have room to mess up as long as we have the presence of that calm and the presence of that simcha and the presence of the whole. It's not working on discipline through a keyhole. It's not working on discipline as a pinpoint and working on this as a pinpoint, working on this as a pinpoint. It's working on the raising as a whole.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I want to finish off just saying to everybody that, like what you corrected me before, and I'm happy that you did. This is a process. Kids are malleable. And what that means is that you could go back and you could make it work. You can start it today. Everybody talks about what they want to accept on themselves, yes. Everybody talks about like what Kabbalah they want to have. You can daven from Birkat Hamazon. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Right.
You can go to Shachris earlier. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But if you want your whole life to change around, meaning if you want to have the ability to daven from a bencher and get up earlier and have shalom bayis and everything else, there's one underpin: simcha in the home. Simcha in the home keeps you calmer. Simcha in the home allows for you to have everything else. Simcha in the home is going to be, now I know this isn't about simcha, it's about discipline, but everything else comes from it. Learn to laugh at everything. Be sure that from all the discipline that you are doing, it's not too harsh. It's not too much of a push. Be sure not to threaten with things that you can't follow up on. Don't say what you can't do. Don't hunt what you can't kill. meaning that if you say you're going to do it, then you have to follow through so your child will feel secure, and be very careful with what you say you're going to do then to make sure that you could follow through. You want to have secure children, but ultimately it all starts out with simcha. All right, everybody. It has been wonderful. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Yossi.
What an awesome season. What an awesome season.
I want to say thank you to
can't
Yossi Bensoussan. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I would like to thank my older brother Ari.
See that?
Know?
That's
you really fed me good lines.
Yossi, you did a good. I'm proud of you, kiddo.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you to Nachi Gordon. And 1 second, I'd like to thank Chazak, who gives me the ability to teach all this Torah. Yossi, who would you like to thank?
I would like to thank Yeshiva High School of Cleveland who lets me do this instead of my real job.
There you go. And Baruch Hashem, Bezrat Hashem, we hope that for the next season, we hope to be doing it in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, with Mashiach and Herav Yameinu. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day. I'm Ari Bensoussan.
Take care.
It's my brother Yossi
Bensoussan.
This has been
the
2 Cents
Cents
Podcast.
Podcast.